Good afternoon and welcome to a new episode of Dubai Works Business Podcast. This week we have a very cool and special guest on, the CEO of Time Out Group, Julio Bruno. Time Out Group is a global media and hospitality business that helps people explore and experience the best of the city through two divisions, Time Out Media and Time Out Market. Time Out itself launched in London in 1968 with a magazine to help people discover the exciting new urban cultures that had started up all over the city. But today, the group's digital and physical presence comprises of websites, magazines, live events, and Time Out Market. Across these platforms, Time Out distributes its curated content written by professional journalists around the best foods, drink, culture, entertainment, and travel in 328 cities, wow, in 58 countries. So today we'll be talking about Time Out Group and its story, its diversification into the hospitality sector with specific reference to the newly opened Time Out Market that has the city buzzing here in Dubai in Souk Al Bar, and the impact of COVID and strategy moving forward. So good afternoon, Julio.
Good afternoon, Richard. How are you? Thank you for having me. Here in your incredible podcast. Happy to be here.
It's actually, I know this is a recording, but it's actually still early in London, relatively early on a Friday morning, and you're in your home space. So you're based in London, correct?
I am based in London, and but I before COVID, I was based in a plane mainly, right?
In a plane, yeah.
And I would be always somewhere. But I just been recently in Dubai, opening the incredible Time Out Market in Dubai. From there, I went to Spain. I'm going to Portugal this weekend because we are opening the original Time Out Market, reopening the Time Out Market in Lisbon. So I'm going back as the city is opening, back to that routine of being in a plane. But today I'm in London in my home office.
And you mentioned just before we went on air that you're currently, you would be in your office at the moment, but they're renovating and you're moving to a new space.
Correct. We're moving to another place, in a couple of weeks. So we are, I was there in the office yesterday, but as you can imagine, with all the moving, etc., it's a little bit complicated. So I thought the noise would not be great for your podcast. So here I am.
And you're a podcaster as well, Julio. How do you have the time for everything?
Oh my! Well, I am a podcaster it happened by accident. Our podcast, which I name Your City or Mine, ? It started because our general manager in Australia was running the Time Out Business podcast. And he was poached by the government in Australia. So Mike is now having a wonderful job in Sydney. And he said, we have to continue that. And it's a business podcast, so we need you, Julio. I said, oh, come on. And then my chief marketing officer and the chief content officer told me the same. So finally, it's a group effort, right? So I have the editors who help me, etc. And I do it in a spare time. I'm recording too this evening.
Okay.
Very, very late ones, actually, because they are from the USA, and one I think is from Uganda. So clearly, I try to find time where I can do 2 or 3 and move on. But it's fantastic doing a podcast. I learn a lot. I love it.
I see how it's presented on the Time Out website and how it looks. It feels very on brand. It's very curated. It's lots of interesting people. It's quite cool. Is that your background, or how have you embraced the publishing industry, but also a publisher yourself? Has it been a shift for you?
Well, yeah, it's good. I think that after 6 years of managing a global media brand, if you don't learn managing so many editors worldwide, then you have a problem. I always love to write, and I do write a little bit, and I have written for different publications as well a little bit, and I think that that's part of it. But I think that I'm just in the midst of, daily discussions with our editors worldwide. And I think you get the bug of not just publishing, but actually being part of it. And I think that, Time Out represents all the things that we want to do all after COVID, past COVID, which is, going out. We are social animals and we have to meet people, enjoy the cities, enjoy life. And I always love that. You don't need to be a publisher or a journalist for that. I think you have to be somebody who enjoys cities. And in my case, I've been a world traveler and a world citizen all my life. So for going from Tokyo to Dubai to Rio de Janeiro is just part of who I've been for the last 30 years.
Amazing. So interesting because to time out, even where I grew up in Dublin and obviously London, it's a synonymous brand and it's been around a long time. Do you think it was for you entering into managing that brand, as you said, 6 years ago? Media is obviously going through constant change and fragmentation and evolution and many different forms of successes and challenges. Do you think it was a benefit to having a brand that's been around for a long time, or was that a challenge? Was it, not disrespectful, but was it a 1960s magazine that needed to be reinvented? And how did you approach that when you took the reins?
Um, there is some origin story right now. That origin stories are famous, right? For now, even all the movies. What is the origin story of the Avengers? Or something? But in my case, not that I'm comparing. There is an origin story for me and Time Out, and I, which I approached them. They never approached me. They weren't looking for me. I was looking for the next project, and I got somebody to introduce me. Never said why. Got to meet the private equity owners at the time. It was a private company, and after a couple of meetings, I told them what I thought about Time Out, what it should be. My previous life at TripAdvisor, Travelport, etc. I've been in the travel and entertainment industry for many years. And obviously the digital publishing, etc. And I felt that Time Out needed to, take that magazine and evolve, right? And I think it was a meeting of minds. The owners, Oakley, at the time, Oakley Private Equity, were looking to do that. And I think I came up with some of the solutions that we believe were needed. And that's how I approach it. I approach it as a brand that, founded by, now this is our founder, Tony Elliott, rest in peace, who, had this very incredible idea in 1968 from his kitchen to discover the things that he wanted to go out as a 20-year-old. What do I want to go out in London? Imagine London in the swinging 60s. And there's no internet. And the newspapers is not what they were today. They were like very, you can imagine, very serious. So how a young person who wants, music and culture and a little bit of things that are not happening and underground, counterculture, and he created a magazine basically for himself and his friends. And that evolved and evolved and evolved. And clearly, I don't need to say what happened then with the world many years later with internet and, listings. Then you needed a magazine for listings, but then you don't need a magazine anymore because the internet will give you the listings, right? So how do you evolve? And the evolution of Time Out and the expansion worldwide, it was also an expansion of a lifestyle, right? Time Out with professional generated content, PGC, as opposed to user generated
UGC,
content,
yeah.
UGC. Is saying, well, why is it important? We have to give a view of the city, because if you go to a city like New York or London or Dubai, there is so much to do that either you're a local or a visitor. How do you choose what's the best thing to do? And we all want to do the best. Yeah, we have FOMO. So clearly we want to do the best, and I don't have the time. I have a weekend. I have to do 3 things. What do I do? What is the best restaurant? Or what is the best Italian restaurant? Or what is the trendiest restaurant? How do I get there? And why should I go there? And what is the best theater play? Because I have many in Broadway or in the West End. And having that helping hand, that ambassador of the city, that's what Time Out has been offering for over 53 years now.
Fascinating. Yeah, and you mentioned Tony Elliott, who sadly passed away last July, and a giant of publishing industry in the UK, and the brand lives beyond his legacy and something that you're carrying forward. And to that point about the brand, we have seen the industry change so much, and it is hard for print, magazine, and newspapers to evolve and adapt. not only to be digitized, but then to choose the paths of digital. At what point did did you focus on journalism? Did you focus on globalization, or did you focus on that sort of offline online mix?
Well, I always was of the opinion and the experience that you have to be where your audience is, right? So if you are platform agnostic and you say, well, okay, our audience will read us in their mobile, they will read us in their, the website or in a print, sometimes in a magazine, or even physically now with the time out markets, right? So if you think about a brand and what it sells, what it says to the world and what it represents, and then you just are where the users or your consumers or your readers are. And that's what and of course you have to do that profitably, you have to do that conscientiously, and you have to maintain still what is the brand, what you're about. If you don't have a clear mission and a clear objective, you could be dispersed and then you don't know who you are anymore. And sometimes it's difficult because you want to be, do I have to go on every single platform that exists, every new social platform? And that's difficult to say no. And it's very difficult to say yes sometimes because, today publishing is a very costly work for little money. So it's a work of love. For us, it has always been, we have a brand that represents these values, and, part of the values that Tony Elliott created at the beginning, and we have continued with, diversity and inclusion, what I call reflecting the cities that we serve, the cities that we serve, multiracial, multicultural, multi-everything. Those are the centers of culture that people gravitate towards. Then you have to represent that in what you write and how you write about. So that's why Time Out has always been very involved with, if you want to call it human rights and equality and fairness. And this is also permeates throughout the organization, right? And through what we write and how we communicate to our consumers. So from the point of view of the values and this, if you want, selling of the brand, Time Out is also quite unique because we are a one brand company now, two brands with Time Out Market. So we have Time Out and Time Out Market. That's two brands, which is very unique in the publishing world.
Sure.
To get a scale, you need several brands, you need all this globalization, you need deep pockets as well. And with the digital transformation, clearly very expensive. If you look at what is happening, for instance, streaming movies and look at Discovery with Warner, look at the creation of Amazon with now MGM and obviously the Washington Post, etc. And you see that's how do you compete with that, right? So then you have a myriad of the smaller companies that are more niche. We are a niche global company, right? But we're niche because we have that specific. So if you look at every sector that we touch, there will be somebody who is more well-known than us in food and more well-known than us in entertainment. But nobody is as well-known as us for everything. And that has positives, being the generalist, and negatives of, you are not then seen as the number one in everything. But we have our famous 5-star reviews, red stars of Time Out, and you go to Broadway and you see Time Out, and you go to the movies and you see a Time Out review there. That makes us very proud because it means that what we have to offer, it is understood globally, and not just in Anglo-Saxon speaking countries, but obviously in Japan and in China and in Mexico, right? So that is also very interesting for us and very, very important. But as a business, as I said, we needed to do something to scale, and our solution was pivoting the company to suddenly, from talking about the best of the city to being part of the best of the city.
Yeah, it's a nice story. Makes sense. I get it. I like it. But from a business point of view, you mentioned it was private equity and now it's listed in London. What's the kind of business status quo? How much of the revenue is from print, digital, and the markets? And what's the makeup of that modern media company that you're running?
There is a before and after COVID, right? And or at least still are during COVID, which is, it's a parenthesis, because obviously the company until 19 was one thing, and now we are rebuilding, if you want. During the COVID, we became timing, because, we couldn't be
Time in,
out.
yeah. You're
And that
showing
was,
the hat with the logo for those listening. Yeah. So time out to time in, and it was all about doing things that we can't go out anymore. It was very, very
yeah.
smart branding, and it worked around the world as well, which again goes to show that sort of thinking that global brand that you have.
Yes, and it's thinking about, well, if the work couldn't go out, but it cannot be time out, it's time in, right? And that's something that I was discussing with the leader of our business in Spain, and that's how it came out with the idea of timing. And then we executed very fast, and the content teams started creating all the stories worldwide. The world became much smaller because of COVID. Everybody knew what was happening in Australia or in Miami, and that was something very, very obvious to us. But also that meant that all our advertisers were closed. Restaurants, theater, museums, events, suddenly all gone. And our markets, the Tamar markets, as restaurants as they are, the best restaurants in the city, they closed as well. So when you talk about revenue, I can talk about 19 rather than talking about what has happened in the last 18 months, because clearly it has been very difficult. But in 19, by the time that we were finishing the year, print was around 30, 33, 34% of the revenue of the company. So we had already been transformed into a digital main brand. And then the markets are big behemoth of places. I mean, the one, Souk Al Bahar. I mean, is there any better place in the whole of Emirates like this? I mean, just a month ago. I mean, come on, you have the best chefs by far. You have an incredible atmosphere, the best views, in front of Burj Khalifa, by the Dubai Mall. Those are incredible propositions. So, and by that means that they also, revenue-wise, are much bigger than a media business with one brand. So eventually, when we are back, out after COVID, now we have started reopening our markets. The market will be the biggest part of the company. Revenue-wise, it will be by far will dwarf the media in 2 or 3 years, because if you think, for instance, our original market, it was Tamar Market Lisbon. It started
I've actually been there as well, and it's stunning. It's so cool. It's really nice. It seems so authentic. It's really cool.
Thank you. And I love it too. And every time I go there, I put a couple of pounds in 1 week. I mean, it's 30-some restaurants and 5 Michelin stars, all of them with 5 stars of Time Out. And it's clearly a beautiful place as well, right? And
is that a criteria to get in? You have to have a 5-star Time Out review?
Yes, it is part of the criteria. You have to have already a restaurant in the city to be invited by invitation only. You have to have 5 stars, sometimes 4, depending. You have to be considered by our Time Out editors and the Time Out market team as the best representation of that food in that city. Obviously,
strong product,
it's subjective by us, but it's obviously based on professional food editors. So clearly, and so yes, there are several other things that we choose, but that's part of it. And when you look at that one, in 2019, we had 4.1 million visitors in the year. So the scale, I mean, that's the largest attraction of Portugal by far. So the scale is so big that obviously dwarfs what you could do a media brand, because you are talking about, people eating constantly 12,000 people every day for every single day of the year. And the numbers were, steadily going up. So, I mean, the previous year was 3.9 million. It's not like it just happened. And it's something that was building over time, and now it's 6 years. Clearly now we are reopening next week on the 1st of June. I will be there. I will be there for the reopening in Lisbon. Great, I'm gonna go to Portugal. We can this green corridor open between the UK and Portugal. And by the way, I'm fully vaccinated as well, so that also helps.
Great.
So when you look at that and you see, well, that kind of business is so very different to what is traditional publishing and digital business, but at the same time is the same. Because our people who are interacting with your brand rather than digitally or through the mobile or through reading a magazine, through physical interaction. We are seeing what Time Out represents. I mean, we talk about the best of the city, and now here you have you now can try the best of the city as chosen by Time Out. And obviously, we also do cultural events. We do a lot of things from theater to music to dancing. So we are only creating events in the market, which is the food and cultural market that we define ourselves as, in short, the world's best food hall.
Yeah. Amazing. So it's interesting. I want to ask about, I just interviewed someone from the hospitality sector, from the core group, and he talked a lot about owned, managed, and franchise. And when you were talking, Julio, about Lisbon, and with your accent, Time Out has a European flair to it now, whereas maybe before people might know it, obviously from their city and a British publishing background, but it is seems to me that by being physically somewhere, it can really add a flavor and a personality and a localization to a brand. Is that part of the strategy? But more specifically, how do you manage a global brand? Do you? I know the relationship with in the UAE is with ITP Publishing. Is that your relationship internationally? Do you have franchise? Do you have managed services? And how do you kind of keep the brand alive in different business models?
Well, first, what accent? I didn't know I have an accent.
Yeah, well, it's not British.
Well, dear. No, so, well, if anything, I represent what Time Out is, right? Our CEO of the Time Out market is Didier Souliat, who is French, and we have people in America, we have people from Portugal, like Joao Cepeda, the original co-founder of the Time Out market. From Lisbon, I'm from Spain, but I'm also have an American passport, so I have a dual nationality. I think that also showcases the who Time Out is as a brand. It's very global, and so am I. Clearly. In terms of our relationship, we have what we call owned and operated from the Time Out Media side, which is our own places. It happens that in the UAE, we do have this agreement with ITP Media for many, many years, and they have done a great job, and we are great partners and work together. In the majority of other places, it's our own offices and our business. Now, for the market, it's the same. We have built our own, like Lisbon or New York or Miami or Boston. And then we have others that are managed by us, designed by us, run by us, but it's a management agreement. And that's a very good model for us because it's people, like in the example of Dubai, we are working with our partner, Emaar, and obviously they wanted us. And then, we told them what we could do as the world's best food hall, and they love it, and they are an incredible partner, and that allows us also to take the brand to more places in a better, more efficiently, because imagine the kind of money and the kinds of resources that you will need if you wanted to open 20 or 30 or 40 of these around the world is very expensive. And again, we are a public company now, but we have limited resources. And that working with the strategic partners is very important for us. But in terms of media, we own obviously the brand worldwide, and what we do are few-year agreements, renewable agreements with some partners, like for instance ITP. Yeah.
And how do you manage that communication? You're a public listed company. How do you communicate that to the markets, the different margins in media versus physical hospitality world? Is it a story that's constantly evolving? How have people received it? And how do you position that? Because there, as you said, Time Out's unique, this sort of proposition of one brand and that real popular experience, F&B experience offering as well. How do you present it to the markets, and how is that received?
Well, when I started, when I took the company public for the IPO, and I went in the roadshow with the very just new CFO that has been like a week with us, and I'm explaining, like, this is our plan, this is what we're gonna do, this is what we're going public, and this is the money that we are raising to do this. And they go, okay, digital transformation, e-commerce, blah, and then I have this market here. And they went, it's like this double thing. What do you mean a market? What? this restaurant. Look at Lisbon, and that time Lisbon was just new, right? And
Okay.
they all went like, hold on, you lost me. We were talking e-commerce, we were talking digital. Now you're talking to me. I had hospitality business. So I kept selling, and that was the reaction absolutely by everyone. But it was selling the idea of the brand, what it means the brand, and how you could be agnostic with your platform. And it was kind of trying to show up people that they have never seen before. They understood a magazine going digital and e-commerce and events, etc. But they have not seen a magazine suddenly coming up with restaurants. So they usually got lost there. And then obviously as a company, we showcase different business model if you want. The hospitality model, people coming, order value, etc. And then the media advertising model. But there is one thing that joins both of them, right? Which is the brand, timeout. And then you have 1 + 1 should equal 3. And then there is a synergy that, the media brand is telling people in the world why you should go to the timeout market. We curated it. These are the best things. So there is a wonderful marketing and PR machine for the timeout market that create footfall. It also allows us to create that credibility with the chefs that we invite. Who is timeout? Well, they know who is timeout. And they know the reviews by timeout. So obviously for them, it's also aspirational being chosen as one of the best of the city under one roof by timeout. So that creates that aura of, we understand the city, we understand food, and we are packaging it all together for the consumer. And then you think about a consumer, I could be reading about what to do tonight or tomorrow in timeout. And then I also can be sampling what timeout market has to offer. So the more we talk about it, the second time that I visited that investor or the third time, they got it. And it still is very unique. But that was the pivot of a media brand. As you know, media has been battered by the last 10, 15 years. And to find out, whether you have a paywall, where you have a pivot to video, where ours was timeout market. And I think that was very unique, and it is very unique, and it has proven great. Now, you have the parenthesis of COVID, which suddenly stopped everything. We opened 5 markets in 2019. In 19, we have to close them all in March 20, and we are reopening as we speak. Yesterday, we opened Timeout New York. That's what I'm wearing the t-shirt.
Cool t-shirt. Oh, amazing. New York's back, Lisbon's coming back, but Dubai's open. It's great. We could talk at length about the pandemic, but the fact that you're here and you're reopening, it kind of tells its own story, and we can touch on it again. But just specifically, I was thinking of Disney parks and Disney streaming as you were talking, and that in those two offerings, which is one type of comparison. And you're telling a positive story. It's amazing to see the brand legacy, but is it not challenging to, direct to consumer makes sense in the timeout world of, we used to sell magazines to customers. Now we have a place where they can take their card out or whatever way of paying in a market. But not only is digital difficult, is journalism difficult with the costs of, the term you used was professionally generated content with premium journalism, but so is digital. The technology around digital, the unit economics around the creator economy, around digital monetization. Is it difficult to kind of progress that while investing in real world as well? And how do you manage that?
Listen, if it was easy, they wouldn't need me. And not that I have all the solutions. I have a very good team that have incredible passion for what we do. And again, not to talk about COVID, but you can imagine how double whammy when you own restaurants and you have a media company dedicated to going out and the world is seeing. So it has been an incredible sobering experience that we are now coming out of it, and this is great because also means that the world is coming back and more healthy and deaths are subsiding, which is great news. But how do we look at that world between digital and that is today? Our brand became free, years ago. So we don't sell the magazine in most places. I think maybe in Dubai they do, but in most places we don't sell the magazine.
But
And
there's
so
advertising on it, yeah.
it's an advertising model. And the advertising model, you have, the print, you have your page or whatever it's, or a cover wrap or whatever. But in digital, it's about the audience. What is the audience that you reach and how many impressions you're going to get me? And then, of course, the premium attached to that brand. In the case of Time Out, it's very clear because we are an action brand. So people come to us because they are going to do something. They are going to go to a restaurant, to a theater, to a movie, or to travel. That's what they're going to do, going out or a music event, etc., or to the market, which means that you have people who are going to spend money as an action brand. And that's good. And if you think about Disney parks, would be the example the same. There are people who are going to go out, and whilst they are out there, what other things are going to do? And for us, from the digital point of view, is how did we enhance our content that we have created for many years and just make sure that digitally we were also relevant. And the digital world is very different than the print world, right? In the print world, you have a certain number of competitors and you distribute, and you have a number of distribution and your print cost distribution, etc. Whereas in digital, you are competing now with everybody. Everybody's an influencer, everybody is writing about this, Facebook, Google, they take 82% of all the advertising of the world. So clearly, where are you? And I think that for us, digitally has been, first a transformation. How are we serving our content to the users in the way that they want to see it? For us, actually, people come to us, again, as an action through horizontal search, basically asking Google, what is the best restaurant to go for this? And Time Out is always out there organically. So very important, our SEO, and that's what we build every day. And clearly the challenges of, what happened one day with the third-party cookies, or what happened another day when Facebook throttles that, and and we have to deal with that. And that means by having a more direct contact to your consumer. What is called first-party data. But in our case, with a market, we have first-party data because we have actually physical people. In that content, in that concept of digital, suddenly physical becomes very important as well, because you are creating that direct connection. So in technology-wise, obviously, we are always adapting, we're always changing, we're always improving. There is a lot to do in our website and our mobile sites to be sure that, we have the right thing. We just launched the Time Out Market app, where you can pay or you can reserve, etc. We are working with our offers app, which we're working on that now. And it's something that we are always evolving, seeing how the consumer responds to things. And obviously for us, very important that our audience grows every year. And that is a factor of the content. If the content that we create is not relevant and cool and fresh, people, you will be a brand of the past, and that's not what we want. And that's why we fight every day to be relevant, to be truthful, to be unique, and to showcase, as I told you at the beginning, some of the values or all of the values that Time Out represents. So the consumer understands when they read Time Out, what they are going to get. Cool, our tone of voice is probably in your face, and it's fun and youthful and discovering, inspirational. And that's what we are, and that's what we try to do also in our physical markets.
Amazing. So just specifically touching on some of those points, Julio, with regards to the things that you didn't do all in. You didn't go all in on a paywall. You didn't go all in on production in terms of, and you might be doing more video, etc. with Digital World, but what you've done, it makes sense. It's continuing the brand story, and it's a physical digital experience. You have markets in the US, talking about lots of presence there. What's your view, and you kind of touched on it, on the current media landscape? We've seen a lot of SPACs. There's a lot of talk about consolidation in the US in media. How do you see that, and where are you steering Time Out?
SPACs are not as hot today as they were like 5 months ago, by the way. So you are certain minutes ago.
But when's the time out NFTs coming out, or the time out
Yeah.
digital currency?
Actually, we have put a couple of very interesting articles of NFTs for dummies, etc. And yes, we are looking at it. We're looking at it because obviously blockchain technology, very interesting. NFTs, I'm not an expert, so I'm going to bring somebody to my podcast to explain it to me as well.
Cool.
And actually, today I'm interviewing Antonio Scaramucci for my podcast. So I think I'm going to learn a lot about Bitcoin as well. Hash.
Cool.
You will hear it in a week or two. And to be honest, the SPACs that you mentioned and the money that is in the system, as you can see, COVID, one of the byproducts of COVID is that the richer got richer. The rich got richer. Why? Because all that money don't know where to go. And that's why you have a lot of SPACs. It's a very simplistic view that I'm giving you, but it's a lot of money out there trying to be invested and where. And at the same time, you realize that, the effects of what happened being time in, you have Netflix, you have the Deliveroo's of the world, you have Amazon delivery, etc. And how suddenly that growth of e-commerce and streaming multiplied by I don't know how many factors, and we have 20 years into one. And that what's happened is, apart from FOMO, that fear of missing out of, oh my God, what should we do? Because of COVID, accelerated a lot of these things. And that's why you see a lot of money now going into consolidation. So suddenly Amazon said, well, I'm already the biggest company. I own everything. I'm going to get into pharmacy. I'm going to get into health. And obviously have Prime Video, but now I'm going to have more because I need more content. And you have then HBO saying, well, I'm almost alone there with Time Warner. Let's go to Discovery. I still think it's very small, by the way. Discovery Warner is still very small to compete with the Netflix and the Amazons of the world.
Like 10, 12 million subscribers versus 200 or so. Yeah.
Exactly. But you have to do that. And that consolidation, has good and has a lot of bad as well. Because then the choice, what happened with the consumer, and the problem is not more in the entertainment side, which is okay, you're going to have bigger movies, bigger Avengers 25 and whatever, fine to see that, Marvel and Disney and all these people doing. But from the point of view of media, the problem that I see with this is that then you get into these fake news times 20. Because now it's not news, it's opinions, etc. And the bigger companies they become, the more they absorb other companies, it will be difficult to maintain a lot of independence and local media, if you want, that will be telling the story as it is, rather than as an opinion. So I think there are the two things happening at the same time. Will SPACs continue? Yeah, of course, they are not as hot as they were because that's normal. But they're a thing now, and there is an interest around the world for consolidation. If you are thinking about timeout, listen, I'm not thinking we pivoted to timeout market precisely to have a different take. That was our own way. Some people went for paywalls, some people tried to do events. Everybody has been trying to do something because brands today could be very subscale. Right? How do you survive when you are only a brand? Or now we are two. It's very difficult, right? Because the scale of these guys, when Disney buys all these things, or with the Warner says, well, I need to be with Discovery, etc., and these are all huge brands and they still feel small. Imagine what is time out compared to them. Nothing, right? In terms of size. And so you could be a global niche brand like what we are. And then, of course, some people will say, hey, I like this timeout thing here, lifestyle, etc. There is, as I said, there's a lot of money out there in the world. But
has that happened? Have you had acquisition offers that you'll tell me? But
no, not at all. No, we are a public company, as you can imagine. So what I'm saying is that when the world is looking at today the media landscape, you are looking at acceleration, as I said, of 2 decades into 1 year. And a lot of decisions are being taken with the prism or with the prism of what happened during COVID. But the reality is that now we are coming out of COVID and people and companies are realizing that what you want to be is out. because we are social animals, and that you're probably not going to see every single series in Netflix as we have done for a year, and that you're not going to have every single day delivery of food because you want to go out and go to restaurants, and you're going to go to events, and you're going to see movies in the cinema as well as home. But those numbers that they were used through COVID are not going to be the numbers that are going to happen now after COVID. The human beings are not going to change. We are evolving, but we are not made to be living a two-dimensional world. We want to live in a three-dimensional world and not in a matrix. And I think that that's very important. So that consolidation that we are seeing as well, and that rush to buy things that maybe they can have good prices now, I think we're going to see subsiding, the same as SPACs, because we're going to get to a little bit of a more of equilibrium. Having said that, obviously, today's world is global, and you need more and more global companies that talk about global things, because at the end, we all want the same around the world, right? We want to live a better life, a better education, better houses, better jobs for our children, for things. I mean, it's logical. And now with COVID, we saw what everybody else is dealing with. And I think we hopefully that made us a bit closer together, hopefully.
It's interesting listening to you describe it that way, Julio, but I think, it's good to be positive at this moment in time coming out of the pandemic. And, the moat per se around Time Out is that it's a one brand, two companies, two offerings, it's got physical. However, I often think of what a modern media company is today. And, this is the device that we consume a lot on. And that device isn't necessarily text, audio, or video. It's a combination. So when you see some media companies, I'll just name one, it may be competitor, maybe not, but Group 9 Media in the US have Thrillist. They've got a lot of content that's like that. And they focus really around audio, text, and video. I guess the question is, media is unattractive in terms of valuations at the moment. It's been battered, as you said, it's unsexy really in terms of valuations. Why do you think that this mix of physical versus digital is a more valuable proposition than a text, audio, pure digital offering for the world that we live in today?
I haven't that is more or less. I'd say that it was our way to do it. I mean, if you want to talk about valuations, if you are thinking about how you value a hospitality build business like, Time Out Market, and you could think about, X times of EBITDA. And when you look at a media business, even digital, you're going to look at much lower multiple on revenue, for instance. Then, the investor may think one way or the other. And then how do you value both together is a bigger discussion, right? What I'm saying is everybody find their own
journey,
way,
business journey,
their own journey if you want, and we have to find our own unique journey, right? And it was the Time Out editors in Lisbon that one day created, well, it took them years, but created the Time Out Market. So if you are the best of the city, let's gonna create the best of the city under one roof. That was the pivot, that was the creativity that is very well known for Time Out. And our investors, not only when we went public, but after that, believe in that story, which is very unique, attached to a brand that means something. Time Out, people know Time Out around the world. There is a good awareness of all people who travel, everybody will know Time Out. Not everybody, but most people will understand Time Out. They don't know that you have a market. They don't know if you were a magazine or you're a web, but they have heard the word Time Out, right, as a brand. And I think that that's our strength, and that's what we have been enhancing that brand and everything we do that has that premium attached to it at the same time of being cool and in the moment and fresh and inspirational and urban, right? Because we champion cities. We don't talk about the country or the whole thing. We talk mainly about cities and travel from city to city and what it means, because we believe that the majority of people gravitate to cities, and that's the place where the cultural hub of the countries are, right? In the main cities. You have the theater, you have the plays, you have all the museums, etc. is happening in those cities. So, I cannot speak for others of their journey. I have seen journeys that are incredible and very successful. and pure digital plays that are doing so well. I have seen many print plays that have done very badly and they have transformed very badly as well, or have not been able to transform digital. We are still in that journey. And with the parenting of COVID, you can imagine it's like a lot of things we have to start again. It's we have been punched on the face very strongly, and now we have to go, the whole team, and get up and go out again, and both our markets, our media, and that's our journey.
Interesting. So I know Time Out is well known around the world, and your business is bigger in some parts than others. But leaving that for a second and asking, with your a CEO of a global brand hat on, how do you view the Middle East as an emerging market, and how do you view it in terms of priority? And what's your outlook? How familiar are you with the region? Where do you see the opportunities? And would you have an optimistic outlook that this market will emerge?
Well, to start with, obviously, our brand there, Time Out, is quite strong in the Middle East, thanks to ITP and ourselves, obviously, the brand. We opened the Time Out market in Dubai, as you know, which has been a success, and is great because we are offering the best food of the city, the best experience, and that's during COVID. So imagine when the restrictions stop and we can do all the things that we want to do, all the cultural events, etc. We also signed for a market in Time Out market Abu Dhabi. That was announced a couple of months ago, and we will make more announcements sooner to the date. But we have a market opening in Abu Dhabi, which we also have ITP being very strong as a partner there. There are obviously other places, Qatar, Oman, etc., that we are, Bahrain, that we are well known, and that there are potential. Without disclosing too much, but there are discussions ongoing there. Let's put it that way.
In other places. Sorry. Yes. Okay. We'll just let that big green elephant in the room stay in the room.
Exactly. And obviously, together with our partner there, and our current partners like EMAR, etc., we are learning a lot about the market. We have a very good team there, and not just in the market, but other team that is helping us, finding the right partners. But one thing that we have learned through COVID is that, and my podcast talks about that, the future of the city. What happens with retail when everything goes into e-commerce and online and two-dimensional? How it's going to be next? The offices, I'm calling you from home. I'm not in the office. Our new office is much smaller than the one before. So if you're a landlord and you're thinking about the future of your properties, how you're going to attract people, footfall to your places. And in that problem that we have now after COVID, if you're a landlord, they have seen Time Out market and Time Out as a brand as part of the solution. Because indeed, as you can see in the Souk Al Bahar, we do bring people, because what we offer is something that people want and at the moment, and then it's the quality. So that's something that we are learning. And clearly the Middle East is a region that is well known for always wanting to improve, be the best. Look at Dubai, look at Abu Dhabi, look at those cities, and there are more. But I mean, they are incredible cities that are evolving in such a way that you can have now all the entertainment of the world. In Dubai, you have some of the best food in the world, and some of the best chefs are there. Abu Dhabi is not far behind either, and some could argue that some of them are in Abu Dhabi more than Dubai. But my point is that we see the Middle East as a strategic for the company, and that's why we are there. We will continue to invest there and to find more partners there to work and to offer, to the local community and to the visitors. Who we are, what is Time Out, what we offer, and actually the Middle East, it has become for many years, this is not new, a gateway to so many things, either to the East or to the West. Yes, maybe we're in the middle, right? And it's obvious, but it's there, and that means that also is a hub of international exchange of knowledge, of culture, of lifestyles, that is very appealing to a brand like Time Out that is representing, the best the city has to offer.
Amazing. What a positive note to finish on. Julio, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on the reopening in New York. Good luck with Lisbon. And we look forward to welcoming you back to this region on your when your office returns to the airplane.
Yes,
and very soon. And enjoy the conversation with Antonio Scaramucci, the Mooch, this evening. We'll continue to listen to your podcast. Thanks very much for your time.
That's it for another episode of Dubai Works. Thank you so much for listening, and please leave a review on the podcast platform that you're listening to. It really helps with organic searches. Also, if you'd like to appear on Dubai Works or know someone who has an inspiring business story in Dubai, please do get in touch on any of the smashy social platforms.